Thank you to Beth in Napoleon coming through with a donation kicking off the 9 o'clock hour. Janie in Kansas City. Thank you, Janie. Also wrapping up last hour, Ron H., $250 in Kansas City. Stephen in Lee Summit. James in Kansas City. Wrapped up last hour with a couple of $2,000 donations. Church of God in Leavenworth coming through. And Walter in Spring Hill coming through with a couple $1,000. David in Concordia. Thank you very much, David, for your donation as well. Here on KCMO Talk Radio, it's our Children's Miracle Network, Miracle Day of Hope. You can call in right now as they are helping kids in Kansas City, and all that money is staying here in Kansas City. 877-719-KIDS, 877-719-KIDS. And those top 10 donors over $500 will get a personally inscribed copy of Bill O'Reilly's newest New York Times best-selling book, Confronting the Presidents. I just looked it up on the nonfiction list. It's number 5. Trailing Cher, the memoir, which is number 1. Cher? Who wants to read Cher's memoir? Oh, I'll leave that for another day. Melania Trump is at number 2. Number 3, Be Ready When the Luck Happens, a memoir by the cookbook author and Food Network host Barefoot Contessa. And number 3 is Framed by John Grisham, criminal justice system viewed through the struggle of 10 wrongfully convicted people to achieve exoneration. And then Bill O'Reilly, Confronting the Presidents, at number 5. Personally inscribed copy, 877-719-KIDS. Now, one of the longtime friends of Children's Miracle Network and this radio station and this entire radio cluster is our next guest. Joe Tillery is here on KCMO Talk Radio. He's become a friend as well. Hey, Joe, good morning. What's happening, man?
Morning, my friend. Thank you so much for having me.
Hey, just take people through what you are living with and your story, and then we'll get to how Children's Miracle Network helped you as a child.
Absolutely. So I was diagnosed with a disease called cystic fibrosis, which it's gained a lot of, traction, and there's been a lot of, kind of reporting and stuff going on lately that really added to the increased effort on the disease front. So people have a better understanding of what it is. But for those that don't, it's basically a disease that affects the lung and digestive tract system where you can't digest food properly, and you have different spots of mucus in the lungs and a bunch of different spots, sinuses, and it basically just complicates everyday life to the point where you need specific medication each and every day. You need to do different breathing exercises, special treatments to clear your lungs. There's a lot of the wear and tear that goes into daily stuff, but on top of that, it also results in multiple hospital stays a year. At least that was kind of the case growing up. It was 4 or 5 times in the year for 21 days at a time, and it was a real struggle for that.
Did we lose you, Joe? You there, buddy?
Oh, yeah. Am I here?
Yep, I got you. Sorry, you cut out there for a second.
Oh, sorry about that.
So then take me,
yeah.
You're obviously, you're born with this, you're dealing with the cystic fibrosis, and you're now what? How old are you now? 26, 25? 24?
24, about to be 25.
All right, going on 25. And how has the technology around cystic fibrosis changed today from when you were born almost 25 years ago now?
Drastically. In one word, drastically. It has been night and day different since I was born. At the time, as a child, there was not much. There was a couple of treatments here and there and different medications, but realistically, it was more about sustaining life rather than preventative or stuff that can help you maintain health. It was more so get you through to the next year type stuff. The approach is entirely different now, where it's this forefront focused of like, how do we fix what's wrong with you? How do we fix what's going on for your symptoms and all this different stuff? And the entire effort, technology, everything has been revolutionized in the 2+ decades I've been fighting this disease.
Now, what about Children's Miracle Network and the role that they played in your life when you were a child and you were in all these hospital stays, and you mentioned 3 to 4 times a year you're going there? It's disrupting school. It's disrupting, friends. It's disrupting everything for you and also your family. So how did Children's Miracle Network play a role in your life growing up?
They played such an integral role in my life. It was one where you can chalk 1,000 different isolated experiences, but there was not a single day that went by that I didn't notice their impact in one of my hospital stays. Growing up and going in and out of the hospital, it doesn't matter if you're, 92 or if you're 2 years old, it's never fun. Nobody enjoys it. But there's things that you need specifically for your health care. So you can bring in specialists from out of town. You can do different things like that all through CMN. But there's also the daily things like, hey, I really want to watch this movie, but the hospital doesn't have it. There's people that go through and say, what can I do to make your daily life better today and make a direct impact? Those kind of things came through, and there's a ton of different things I can highlight. But for me specifically, I wouldn't have graduated high school without some help from CMN because in my case, conveniently, I went to the hospital right during finals week of my senior year of high school, and it threw off everything, understandably. And so the issue was that the school couldn't work with the hospital and vice versa to have someone come out and administer certain tests and examinations. I had to have a coordinator, a special education coordinator come through, funded through by CMN, to administer the final exams in person at the hospital so I could still graduate. And it was a massive deal, but we got it done for sure.
That's amazing. And listen, the technology, as we talked about, has changed tremendously. And, a lot of your childhood was in and out of the hospital and, seeing folks and dealing with people also from Children's Miracle Network. And what is, what's the outlook on cystic fibrosis now compared to where it was when you were a kid?
Man, it is so different. It's now at the point where there are people living full lives and you understand the diagnosis at a young age, and it gets to the point where it's not nearly as scary. I mean, it's still a threatening thing, but I've gone basically from the world where I went into the hospital 4 to 5 times a year, 21 plus days at a time, to now a world where I've been in the hospital once in the last 5 years. It's changed everything. And
That's
so
amazing.
with kids now that are diagnosed with it, it is such a difference because you understand, hey, the healthcare is revolutionized. You're starting at such a higher ceiling than a lot of these kids that had where I was, and so much of that is due to the people at CMN.
That's incredible, man. And you're engaged now, right? So you're engaged, and you're going to get married, and you got a full, happy, healthy, God willing life ahead of you. What are you doing personally and professionally now?
So right now I'm working for Heartland College Sports. Huge shout out. It's something I really enjoyed. I went to Kansas State, got my degree, got engaged. It's been a lot of personal boxes checked for me that I didn't know if I'd ever be able to cross, to be perfectly honest with you. So I'm living a good life. I'm up in Minnesota for the year. My girlfriend's up in PA school up there. Hoping to get back to the KC area here in August, but working covering college sports, something I absolutely love, and with a group of guys that I really, really appreciate.
Well, hey, man, you're doing great work, and, I know we talked when you got engaged, and you didn't screw that up, so you're continuing to trend in the right direction and doing outstanding work. So we appreciate you, Joe, and thank you for sharing the story on KCMO.
Anytime, man. Thank you so much for having me.
All right, there you go. Joe Tillery, one of the great success stories from Children's Miracle Network. He is just a great guy, known him for several years. Met him for the first time when we started doing this radiothon. Kept in touch. He went to Kansas State. He's doing some great work for a college sports outlet here in the Midwest. And I can't say enough about him as a guy, too. So he was that kid who was getting helped and getting donations from you today with Children's Miracle Network on our Miracle Day of Hope. And that number is 877-719-KIDS, 877-719-KIDS.